Hey, Topping Life Math and History, and we are going to learn how to multiply the square roots. So we have been adding and subtracting the square roots and trying to simplify them. But what happens when we multiply the square roots? Well, as a warm-up, we are going to be solving the problem, the square root of 20, multiply that by the square root of 5. Let's see where that goes to. So when we try and multiply something, and when we try to have it simplified, we try to have an answer that is not decimals, and it still has a whole number. So we can have 20 pulled out of 4 and 5, but the square roots, because 4 times 5 equals 20. When we do that, we can circle the 4 and turn that into a 2 and take that out. Now we have 2 to the square root of 5. Multiply that by the square root of 5. Since we have the square root of 5 multiplied by the square root of 5, we can combine the two to make 2 to the square root of 25. But we are not done yet, because 25 still has a square. Taking that out, we have a 5. When we do that, we turn that into a 5, multiply it by 2, and we get an answer of 10. So that is how we can multiply the square roots if they are alone and there are no multipliers in front of it. Another easier way we can do that is we can multiply 20 and 5 to get the square root of 100. And that brings us to 10, which is the same exact answer. That is a shortcut, but sometimes the shortcut won't work when you multiply other kind of radicals, which we will review in the future. So, when we talked about the faster express method to get you to your answer, there is actually a formula that can help us understand it. So when you have a square root of m, or one number, multiply that by a square root of m with another number. That is the same thing as saying the square root of m and n combined together when you multiply them. And that applies when it's this kind of problem that you're solving. Two square roots without any other numbers in front of it. Let's see another example. Okay, so in this example, we're going to be solving 4 square root of 6, multiply that by 2, the square root of 6. What we could do is we could do the math normally and simplify and get to an answer. But this one is sort of kind of like this one, because we can use a special shortcut to get us to our answer. So do you remember in the past video when we were adding and subtracting the radicals, what we could do is we could have added the two since they have multipliers in front of the radicals, but the same number inside the square root, which is called the radicand. But when we multiply the square roots, what we can do is multiply just like the distributive property. Here's an example. We have 4 times 2 and 6 times 6. That will result in 8 to the square root of 36. When we do that, we have 36 as a perfect square. We can turn that down to 6 since it's a perfect square. So 8 times 6 equals 48. That is our answer to this one right here. So there's another formula that we are going to look at. Since we have a multiplier and we have the same radicands, but different numbers that are being multiplied, what we could do is we found another formula where the square root of m multiply that by b is going to be the square root of m. It's going to be the same thing as saying a times b with the square root of mn. So when you do that, this right here is another version of writing it right here. So that is another example where we would use this method to multiply the square roots. There's one more that I want to show you in case you come across it during a math test or a math assessment. Okay, so we have 5, the square root of 2, multiplied by -3, the square root of 15. So, do you think we are going to do the exact same thing as the last problem? Actually, yes. When you have two different radicals, it doesn't mean that the rule for a square root m times b, then the square root of m, is another way of saying a times b, square root of m times n. It's basically the same rule. So we can rewrite this as 15. Well, 5 times -3 is -15, and 2 times 50 is going to be the square root of 100. So you see how we rewrote the problem to make a new equation? When we have the square root of 100, we can turn that into 10. So -15 times 10 is equal to -150. So this formula, or this rule, is very, very helpful, because when you multiply both of the multipliers and multiply both of the radicands, you can create a new radical, and when you can simplify that, you can get to a normal number. So the formula actually does help. And those are some useful tips when you multiply the square roots. I hope this video has helped you. Thank you for watching Tao Opinionalized Math Industry. Like and subscribe.